On this episode, you will hear from Lindsey's dad, Jesse, about all the nurses that helped him out and the influence that they've had on his life from that point forward. Atlas All Access starts now.
Here with Atlas MedStaff Recruiter. You may remember my Nurses Week video where I talked about my dad and his surgery and how it impacted me and our family. Without a nurse who, after swabbing his throat, didn't go in and just say, hey, let me listen to your heart, let me do your vitals, let me do the stuff I'm supposed to do, I wouldn't have a dad right now. And how grateful we were that I have a dad that I get to actually share a video with now. You guys get to meet him and my mom and hear their story from their perspective. Because not only am I grateful to be working with nurses like you guys and be a part of this, but I'm grateful that they are here and they can share as well how grateful they are.
Hi, I'm Wanda Martin. I'm Lindsey's mom.
Hello, I'm Lindsey's father, Jesse. I was at home one day and had a sore throat, went to urgent care because my doctor's office was closed. I met the nurse who asked for the information. I told her I thought I had strep throat and I was going to give it to our son. And so she said, step on in, let me swab your throat, the doctor will be here in a minute. And she swabbed the throat, the doctor came in and talked to me for a little bit. And then he disappeared, and the next person I saw was the nurse who explained to me that while they were waiting to grow the culture, it was that long ago, that she was going to take my vitals. And she did the normal nurse stuff, wrote down the vitals, listened to my chest, and had a disturbing look on her face. And I looked at her, and I'm the type of person who kind of gives people a hard time. I said, you better be messing with me. And she became rather direct, finger in my, hey, quiet. And she walked out. And she was gone 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5. The next thing I know, she walks in and she goes, the doctor's extremely busy. He's asked me to give you the information. And I said, okay, what? She said, you don't have strep. We have a tremendous heart murmur. My opinion, I looked at her, I went, tremendous, that means good? And she went, no, you need to have it looked at by a cardiologist now. And I said, okay, I'll check into that. I started to get up, and up came the finger again. She goes, wait. And she starts to hand me a business card, and I look at a cardiologist, and I went, you drumming up business with this guy? And she said, no, you need to have it looked at. If you'll turn over the card, you have an appointment this afternoon. Those of you watching the video don't know me. I went home, and Wanda looked at me, and she said, how'd it go? And I said, doc says I don't have strep. Sat down and started watching TV. The time for the appointment came and went, and it got to about 4 o'clock, and the doctor's office was gonna close, and the phone rang in the kitchen.
I answered the phone and they said, Jesse Martin's missed his appointment with our cardiologist. And I'm just kind of trying to gather my thoughts. A cardiologist? He doesn't have a cardiologist. Wait a minute, Jesse. Did you miss an appointment with a cardiologist? And you have a cardiologist? Why do you have a cardiologist? This was like news to me, and I was kind of frightened and a little angry that he missed the appointment that was so important. And he goes, yeah, I'm not gonna go. And I go, no, you are going. If you have an appointment with a cardiologist and tell me this story, you are going. From there, he didn't go.
I was in college at the time, so I'm 3 hours away, and I got to hear the whole exchange via my mom and dad later when they told us dad was going to have heart surgery. But I do remember hearing about Conrad, my dad's best friend, who's now fire chief in our hometown and was a fireman back then, getting involved.
So his best friend called. His best friend was talking to me, and he goes, hey, is Jesse there? And I said, Jesse has an appointment with the cardiologist and he's not going. And he said, well, he better go to the ER.
Wanda was kind enough, I use that word, to point out she was talking to a nurse from the cardiologist's office, and they had chosen to keep the office open even after they were supposed to be closed, to wait for me because of what the nurse from the urgent care had explained. And I stood up at that time with, you've heard about Conrad, my best friend. He happened to be 6'8", about 310 pounds, played offensive line, and you just don't mess with him. And his literal statement to Wanda that she relayed to me was, either he gets his rear end to that cardiologist's office, or I'm gonna shut my fire station down, bring my fire truck down there with everybody. We're gonna throw him in the back of the truck and take him ourselves. And I realized now I'm getting double teamed. And so I said, fine. I said, you got the nurse on the phone? Because Wanda had the house phone and a cell phone. And she goes, yep, tell them I'm on my way. And I drove down there, and it was a very unusual situation. I'm walking into a dark building. It was a medical office building, and everybody was closed. And I went upstairs, and the only light on, the only door open was to the cardiologist's office. And I was greeted by 3 nurses who did all the medical checking, and the cardiologist came in, and he asked the nurses if they were willing to stay. And they ran a barrage of tests. I had to do a treadmill, I had to do an echo, all of the things to decide the condition I was in. And ultimately, I was told that the heart was so bad that this was the 1st of November, I needed surgery before Thanksgiving. And they recommended several heart surgeons. I went home and was greeted in the driveway by Wanda, and she had settled down. I was afraid to get out of the car the first time. She had settled down, and as I got out, our next door neighbor's daughter was an RN in charge of an emergency room from another hospital. And she looked at me and she asked me if I was okay, and I told her exactly what had just happened. And she goes, my husband just went through that. I have a doctor's card from USC. You need to call this man. Had that nurse not mentioned that, I would not have gotten the ultimate care that I wound up getting. I went in and discussed everything with Wanda. Phone call was made to Lindsey at some time.
When you're 19 years old, you just assume your parents are invincible. They're angry with you half the time, they love you the other half the time. Hopefully they're proud of you, at least the stuff they know, as a 19-year-old kid in college. And you get, your parents check up on you all the time. They call it, cell phones had just come out, and are you going to class? Are you going to practice? What are your grades? What's going on? When are you coming home? So you get used to those phone calls. And I remember getting a call, and you're like, hey, hi mom, hi dad, what's up? Going to class, I promise I'm studying, I'm not just eating candy, whatever. And they're like, we have to talk to you. And the sullenness over the phone, it hits you and you realize something's not right. And to hear dad try and be like, it's not a big deal, but I need to have heart surgery. And it's that feeling of, you're busy, the world's always going, everything's going, and you just stop and the world keeps going around you. It's my world didn't come crashing down, it just came to a stop because all of a sudden you realize the vulnerability of the people that are close to you at a young age. I didn't understand. I was like, what does that mean? What do you mean dad needs heart surgery? Like, dad goes out and plays basketball with me in the front porch. Like, dad'll come out and set volleyballs for me. He comes to all my practices. He comes to the games. He, we go on by, like, we are an active family. What do you mean he's not sick? And Dad tried to make it, oh, it's no big deal, no big deal. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember Mom calling me back and being like, it is a big deal.
It is.
They are going to, Dad doesn't want it to be big, Dad doesn't want to scare anybody, but they're going to open Dad up and they're going to stop his heart. And I don't know if it was self-preservation or the protectiveness of a dad over his family to try and make it like, this is just routine, we're just gonna go in, kind of like a knee surgery or, you know what I mean, a doctor's visit. We're just gonna go in, fix some things, it's gonna be fine. And Mom smiled through it, but you could tell my mom was terrified.
Well, I remember Jesse going in for surgery. They shaved him and everything, and I was there every moment. They wouldn't let me be there because you just don't know. They just told me that if he didn't have surgery right away, it would be irreversible. His heart would grow to a point where he'd have to have a heart transplant. And I'm going, this is a young man, in my opinion, and I can't believe that we're going through this.
And ultimately, it came down to, I met with 3 heart surgeons, and the heart surgeon at USC was the man for me. Everything else, I met the heart surgeon once, did the surgery on me the second time, and anybody and everybody I've met in the medical field during the time pre-surgery, during the surgery, and post-surgery have been nurses, and they literally changed my life and saved my life. The nurse in the driveway, the nurse at urgent care saying, you need to have this taken care of. The ultimate decision was told to me that my heart had grown. I do not understand medical terms. My heart had grown to a point that if it grew 0.1 something more, centimeter more, something, that it would be irreversible heart damage. And the only way they could possibly save my life was a heart transplant. I talked to nurse 1, nurse 2, nurse 3 in like a 3-day period, and they saved my life. They saved my heart. The doctor she sent me to, I have a scar right here. He split it open, went in this way. I was in the hospital, it's amazing. I was in the hospital 4 days. I went in Friday, went home Tuesday. Open heart surgery. I mean, I looked at Wanda and I said, I have 2 birthdays. My original one in April, and my second one in January, because stopped my heart, started it again, I'm born again, right? And she never bought off on that. I don't get presents in January.
I do remember after the surgery, they finally let me in to see him. And a nurse was sitting there at the foot of his bed, and she said she was assigned to stay right there at the foot of the bed and watch him and take care of him. And Jesse was basically out and breathing, and I just wanted to hold his hand. He had tubes everywhere. It scared me when I walked in. There were so many tubes and everything to keep him alive and keep him going. And this nurse was just sitting there taking care of him. And he started to wake up, and she gave him a few ice chips, and he was in terrible pain and groaning, and it was really scary, really scary. But the nurse that was there just calmed me. She calmed Jesse. She said that she would stay there, she would not leave him, and they only let me stay a short period of time, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, and during that whole time, Jesse didn't really come out of it, but it was a scary time, but I knew he was in good hands. People were coming in and coming out and checking on him, and the nurse there was just checking his vitals and checking everything, and it made me feel confident that he was in good hands, and whatever took place, it was going to be dealt with.
The nursing profession needs to be recognized for what they do, and I believe they do it second nature. And they don't realize, as they go about their day doing the things that they find normal, the impact that they have, the positive impact that they have. We'll go just personal on me. I am here because I met 4 nurses that were compassionate about their profession. They were compassionate about the people that they took care of myself being one of them. I don't know their names. They are people in my memory that I can never forget, and I can never thank enough for saving my life. I never realized personally going through it what it meant to the people around me, my family, until I saw the video of my daughter. Humbles me.
And it's just an example of the world doesn't stop. And you don't realize that when something heavy happens.
It's true.
That just because you're in this crisis, in this gut-wrenching something happening, the world doesn't stop. But the nurses that brought us back to Sam, the time that we sat in the waiting room, their world didn't stop because they were helping. And that, I mean, it was eye-opening because they still care.